Hey, I'm Todd Mesereau. This is another Once Around the Block, and this is the McLaren 570S Spider. Now, the 570 comes from the horsepower, 570 PS. Pferdestärke is a German word for horse strength. And if we translate that into horsepower, it's almost the same. It's 562 horsepower in this wild car. Now, it's mid-engine. Some people call it the bargain supercar at about 210,000, give or take the options. And we're going to take this out on the road and see what it can do. It's so fun to drive. The hardest part about driving this car is staying even in the neighborhood of the speed limit, because it is just so fun to drive and so fast and so tight and grippy in the corners. So what makes a supercar a supercar? Well, one thing is a mid-engine right behind me. A beautiful 3.8 liter aluminum or aluminium V8 twin turbo, putting out 562 horsepower. And for this car, which weighs 3,300 pounds, that's a lot of horsepower. 0 to 60, 3.1 seconds. I think anything under 4 seconds sort of gets you in the conversation about a supercar. Top speed, 204 miles an hour, so over 200. The other thing is, it has gull wing doors, or what McLaren likes to call dihedral doors. They're wings, and this car feels like it can fly. Weight distribution is 42 front, 58 rear. Most Formula One race cars are 60% weight distribution to the rear. So I think by all significant measures, this qualifies as a supercar. So a little McLaren history. Bruce McLaren, New Zealander, F1 race car driver, 1963 decides, I'm going to build my own race car. 1966, he starts racing in a McLaren. Then in 1970, at Goodwood, driving his McLaren MBD, crashes and dies. Sad, but not the end of the McLaren story. They've gone on to become one of the premier Formula One race car teams in the world, and they've made some amazing street cars, of which this is one. The first McLaren street car, 1993 F1, designed by Gordon Murray and Peter Stevens, the first carbon fiber monocoque body on a street car. It took 3,000 man-hours over the course of several months to build one. These days, it's a whole lot faster. The 12C came along in 2009, so quite a gap between the F1, which some people call the unicorn. And then there's this, the 570S Spider. It's kind of an amazing car. You can put the window down, the one behind me, and hear the engine. Whipping through the turn. Wow. So the steering is electro-hydraulic. It's really tight. It's super responsive. You can imagine yourself on a track pretty easily. There are 3 modes: normal, sport, and track. I don't see any reason not to be in sport, so I'm pretty much in sport. It's funny that there's a normal setting on this, because this kind of supercar is anything but normal. It's a 7-speed transmission. There's paddle shifters if you like that, but I'm never going to be as good as the software. So I'm letting the car decide. I can just enjoy the experience, mashing my foot on the gas pedal and and every now and then pressing on the carbon ceramic brakes. The front have 6 pistons, the rear have 4. There's no question about stopping ability. It'll stop pretty easily, which is good when you're, well, I'm not going 204 miles an hour, but if you did happen to go that fast. The nice thing about the brakes and the gas pedal, like, you have to push on them. It's not super sensitive. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to mash on either of them to make anything happen, but there's a certain stiffness to the whole experience that makes you feel like you're in touch with the car. It has this massive windshield. Visibility is fantastic looking forward to the sides. Side view mirrors, they look sort of like the stalks on a bug. The car has giant scoops along the doors, and those scoops drive a bunch of air back to the radiators to keep the aluminum engine cool. So the car is really low to the ground. Driving down the freeway, I look over and at an SUV, and my eye line is below the door handles. So the other nice thing about carbon fiber monocoque, or monocell 2 is what McLaren calls their bodies. Lightweight, rigidity, and stiffness. Even though this is a convertible, they didn't have to add anything. No extra weight, it's just that strong. That even without the structural support of a full-time roof, like in a coupe, don't need to add any extra weight. So the roof mechanism adds only 100 pounds. All right, time to put the top down. McLaren says this happens in 15 seconds, and you can do this at speeds up to 25 miles an hour. Well, that changes everything. And my mom, who's a serious convertible lover, she says if the top's down, the windows have to go down. So all the windows down. Windows down, Mom. One big change is the sound of the engine. It's a whole lot more present. The cold air rushing around, it's pretty nice. Now you really do feel like you're flying. It's kind of a perfect California day. Top down, supercar, beautiful mountain road. It's nice to be spoiled. Oh, Lord. So fast. Maybe it's time to put the top up. A lap of automotive luxury. Nothing like a supercar. So I know it's sort of silly, but the first thing I did with this car was take it to the grocery store. It's a mid-engine car, so there's trunk space up front. There was room for, a bunch of stuff. Not a set of golf clubs. So it doesn't quite pass the Clarkson test. There's a really nice touch screen. Everything is simple and easy to understand, intuitive. I haven't had to break out the instruction manual once to figure out how a system works. It's a real pleasure to drive this car. Oh man. McLaren have really succeeded in building something that is kind of astonishing. I mean, the day will come when most cars are autonomous, and there's a huge advantage in autonomous vehicles. Good Lord. But there's always going to be a place for an amazing machine like this. It's hard to find something bad to say about this car other than that I can't afford it. I do feel lucky having the opportunity to drive this car and just have some fun with it. It's just hard not to smile when you drive this.